So I want to start with a headline: Extreme heat threatens worker safety and productivity globally. This report finds rising wet bulb temperatures slash productivity and endanger health. Construction, agriculture, and informal labor are most exposed as climate change drives up risks. So let's talk about this idea of wet bulb temperatures that we're often seeing now in the media. Dane, how is geoengineering related to wet bulb temperatures, and what is that first?
So in order to create short-term, temporary, toxic surface cooldowns, they come at the cost of an even worse overall warming. These same particulates that are used to deflect some of the sun's incoming thermal energy during daytime temperatures trap that energy at night. They're destroying the ozone layer. So all of these processes are increasing surface temperatures radically. That increases evaporation. That adds humidity to the equation of heat. It changes atmospheric chemistry in a way that we've never seen before. And now we're having the combination of heat and humidity creates a heat index temperature. That's the wet bulb temperature. And we've seen those temperatures, Mary and Clayton, as high as 180 degrees in the Persian Gulf region.
Unprecedented heat returns after shattering extremes for July.
They had an air temperature of 100 degrees.
That's a daytime high heat index, and that's a humidity of 90+% and an ambient temperature of about 112, 114. So again, it's the humidity that drives the heat index up so incredibly high.
Wow. Clayton, tell us about the health effects. You're an MD. Tell us about the toxic artificial chemicals and nanomedicals that have known risks, and how can the wet bulb heat like this affect human health?
Well, I'd start with the issue with some of these particulate matters. First of all, it's well known that simply air pollution, that is high particulate matter in the breathable air, regardless of what it's contained with, has deleterious health effects that are really profound. Just the old-fashioned LA smog back in decades ago, obviously, as we all know, significantly worsened asthma, worsened COPD, worsened a lot of respiratory illnesses. And this is the same now with the particulate matter that's being sprayed into the atmosphere for these geoengineering activities. In fact, some of them are, as I think Dane kind of hinted at, they're kind of designed in a sense to mimic some of the old pollutant particulate matter issues that we had decades ago, either due to volcanic eruptions or due to industry. And so we have those same problems with just high particulate matters, particularly with respiratory disease, but it also extends to dementing illnesses. And we know that dementia is on the rise. Now, if you talk about particular products that are being sprayed into particular minerals and metals that are being sprayed into the atmosphere, the most obvious one is aluminum. And as many of us know, aluminum is purely toxic to humans and to most animals. It has no physiologic function in the human body. Unlike iron, unlike copper, unlike zinc, it's not a cofactor for anything. It has no positive function whatsoever. It's purely toxic. And it's toxic in multiple areas of the body. Perhaps the most prominent is to the central nervous system, and it's a major factor potentially for this rise in dementia. Again, one of the reasons that we know this for a fact is because hemodialysis patients in the first decades of widespread hemodialysis for kidney failure were found to have a dementing illness, hemodialysis-related dementia, and this was eventually found to be exclusively caused by molecular aluminum or aluminum salts getting into their system through defects in the old hemodialysis process. When this was fixed, that problem went away. So we know for a fact that high amounts of aluminum cause dementia. Similarly, people who used to work in the aluminum processing industries would get a condition called pot room asthma, which was an asthma or COPD-like illness due to aerosolized aluminum in the industrial workspace. And so we know for a fact, we literally have human models that prove to us that aluminum is toxic to our central nervous system to the extent of causing dementing illness and causing asthma-like problems as well.
Clayton, if I could interrupt, we'll come back to the nanoparticles if we could, but if you address the wet bulb issue here,
Sure.
are the particles interacting in some way with this high heat and humidity?
That's not an area that I have extensive knowledge of yet, and I could do a little research and get back to you on that. But certainly, high humidity tends to hold these particulate matter in the breathable airspace much longer, so they don't settle to the ground. And of course, many people with asthma or COPD-like conditions do poorly in heat and do poorly in humid atmospheres or humid surroundings. So it's absolutely going to worsen respiratory status for people, and it's potentially going to expose them to greater amounts of these particulates because they're going to be held in the breathable air much longer. I think the other consideration is, just what is a physically tolerable wet bulb temperature for someone to go out into. It can't be much more than, say, 130 degrees or so. And so, when you're talking about these absolutely insane effective temperatures of over 150, 160 degrees, I mean, it's not really possible to function normally in those types of settings.